There have been a bunch of new releases in the budget multi-tool world, and I want to quickly go over a couple of them. Most are just variations on tools that already exist, but then there are a few that, well, are quite different. So let's go ahead and get started. Now this will likely be the shortest review I've done on any multi-tool, but this is exactly, and I mean exactly, the Nextorch Flagship Pro, just made by Nextorch or distributed by Nextorch without a one-handable blade and in all 3CR instead of having a 5CR blade. Meaning that this is just strictly worse than buying the Nextorch Flagship Pro. Yeah, that's it. That's what you need to know. So I have done a separate review on that tool many times, and I don't have much more to say. So I'm very confused. I think this was a great opportunity for this company to make a variation that was actually improved on the Flagship Pro, but that's not the way they went. Thankfully, the next tool, which is completely, well, I should say, okay, I can't say next tool because I'm confusing things. The next multi-tool we talk about is also from Nextorch, but in this case, it's much, much better. This tool is so interesting to me because in so many ways they've done novel things I've never seen before on any multi-tool ever. And if this had been made in slightly better steel, I think it could be a competitor for any multi-tool in the market, generally made by any brand, because they've thought this thing through so well. The first component, which is something I've never seen before, check this out. There's a little slider and it releases an arm. And there's a little blade here, and this is for zip ties, large zip ties, and it's like a crunch cutter. Now, I would only imagine this will do a pretty good job for more than just zip ties. I mean, this is like nothing for this. I mean, like, I am thinking it could do a lot more and potentially even be good in electrical tasks. But that 3CR, I'm telling you, that's not hard enough to last for a long period of time, just my thoughts. Overall, though, that's a really, really cool feature, and it doesn't take up that much space either. Now, on the outside, we also have a small saw, decent teeth on this, pull cut, and it is tapered, which is good, which means that it's thinner on the back than it is at the teeth, meaning it's not going to get bound up. That's the two tools there. Now, on the other side, we have a very tiny one-handable blade, which isn't the end of the world. When you see the rest of the tool set, it'll make more sense why this is so small. But it is one-handed and it does have a liner lock. And then on the opposite side of that, we have two components. So first thing we have is this, which I did find very difficult to get out, which is a flathead that doesn't fully go into a 90-degree position. That is a little bit of a weirdness, but it does have a slip joint and it does position itself in a usable place. And then the second part of that, right behind it, is going to be a pull cutter. So for getting someone out of a sticky situation or something is under tension, you can actually use this to pull through and it should work pretty well. But it feels a little redundant when you see what's inside. Because if we open this tool, take a look at those shears, baby. That is something special. I wonder if, I don't exactly, you know what? I don't exactly have a penny, but you know, we can use this piece of plastic and, okay, well yeah, well, that's something. That's not much of a challenge for this thing. Okay, so we have serrated shears. Now, these are more safety style shears, but look at how robust these are. God, if they only made this in a better steel. Oh my God, it would last so much longer. Now, it's not the end of the world. I think for any soft material, I think it's going to hold up pretty well. But my goodness, I'm just thinking about the potential this would have had it just been a little bit, just a smidgen better on the steel. This is also spring-loaded, by the way. I'm trying to figure out where the spring is. Where is that spring? Where's the spring? That's got to be it right there, I think. Either way, it's spring-loaded and it really shows, and I like that a lot. I like that a lot. We're going to have to put this up against the gauntlet, but my guess is that this thing has no problem at all with any of the stuff that we usually cut. This thing is going to be a monster. So pretty cool scissor. And then on top of the scissor, if you unfold this arm, we have the classic Nextool approach where you have a pair of pliers as well. Now notice that it's tapered and made flat so that it kind of can pass the location of the scissor inside the frame. It's not going to be the biggest pair of pliers that they have, but it does have replaceable cutters with hardwire cutters. Very cool. I think the thing that really surprised me is the weight of this tool. So this is coming in only, and I did check it, 268, I say only, 9.45 ounces. That's not that much heavier than your average Leatherman Wave clone that's on the market. Like, they have somehow found a way to keep this relatively light, which is really impressive to me. It also has an oxygen wrench, which I didn't mention. Let's see, is there anything else that I missed here? I think that's it. I think it was just the oxygen wrench. Either way, this is unique. This is very much a unique tool in the marketplace. I've never seen anything like it. And I don't know the pricing yet. If I do, I will be putting it right here. I'm hoping, praying, this thing comes in around that 50 to 60 mark and not like $100. But if it's around that $50 price, it's got a very special place in the market that nothing else fills. It's light enough. It's got enough functions to be useful. I think a lot of people will get some use out of it. Definitely going to be a consideration for people who in law enforcement, where you might need to cut very, very large wire ties, if you know what I mean. That's exactly what it's designed for. And I think that that's pretty damn cool. The way they have accomplished this, I saw this at SHOT Show, but it feels like in some ways it's actually better than I remember it to be. Overall, I like this one. The Nextorch Pioneer is what it's called, and I will put a link to it if I can find it down below. Okay, so there's nothing new here, but I want to kind of go over some of the new colors real quick. Flisa came out with some variations that include a tan and black combo, a green and black combo, and they also had some new colors for their NXT clone. So quickly, let's go through this. First of all, I love the new look. The aluminum on top of it, they've done a really good job on the looks. A couple of little fitment issues. The scissors don't go fully in when you close them, which if you're not careful, that'll happen, and that's not good, at least on my unit. The scissors, and that are just one issue, but there's also some just general quality control issues on the rest of this. I would skip it. For $19, you're far better off getting the Work Pro multi-force kind of clone, and that has a spring-loaded plier. It actually kind of makes it a little unique, and especially at the $20 price. This is not the tool I would go for. It's that simple. Hold off. Even though it looks good, don't do it. The one thing that it does have that's better than the NXT, however, is the pliers. They have replaceable cutters, and these are pass cutters versus the anvil cutters on the NXT, which for whatever reason, that plier has had a bunch of problems with quality control. So that is the one thing I will say that it has a little bit better. Now, these are identical, so I'm not going to really go over it, but I will tell you that this tan version is a much better coloration. The background is kind of changing the color a little bit, but I will tell you that this is closer to a true tan, the way it should be, than the green is. It's not really an OD green or, you know, like a proper green color. It's just not right. Like you can see, it's pretty like dark. And kind of, it's just not right. Anyway, we have the scissors, flathead, small flathead, and can opener, bot opener with wire stripper. This is a pretty standard tool set. We've talked about a number of times for this. And then on the other side, we have a ball detent, double-sided 1/4 inch bit. And this all lock. All these tools lock. We also have a pair of pliers with replaceable cutters. These cutters actually work incredibly well. Even better than the ones on the Wave, weirdly enough, at least as of right now. We have a straight blade. This should be in 7CR17, if I believe. It's not going to be true with the rest of the blades, including this serrated blade. We have a diamond file. All of these are liner locked, and a cross cut on the back. Really nice and aggressive on this one, which is good. And then we have a saw. Simple enough. All of these are going to be, I believe, in 5CR or 3CR for the frame. So 5 or 3CR depending on what parts they are. This one does not have a pocket clip. It comes with a sheath, so that's of note. There are plenty of variations of this tool. I've talked a ton about them on this channel. I even have a list of budget-oriented tools, and I will include this in there as well. I need to do a final guide on budget, generic tools in existence. And of course, we'll reiterate there, but this is fine. For $24, I don't think you can really go wrong for it. I mean, it's almost a quarter or even a fifth of a Leatherman Wave. So even though it's not a tool I would stake my life on, it is certainly one I wouldn't mind having as a backup in multiple places, on a fishing trip where I might lose it overboard, that kind of thing. There's just places where you might not want to take a $120 Leatherman tool. Anyway, let's move on. There is another new release from Bibury. Now, other than the add-ons, this is basically the same tool they've had before. It is a Leatherman Surge clone. The inside tools are the reamer awl, large flat, small flat, can opener, bottle opener, wire stripper. This actually is done pretty well in the fit and finish aspect. The 1/4 inch bit driver is a little bit more robust than the one on the the Wave clone. These all lock as well. Now this has the very similar Surge plier head with replaceable cutters. Now this does actually cut wire better than the Leathermans do right now with those stupid cutters that they have. I find that very embarrassing for them. But yeah, this actually cuts wire very, very well. One thing I will say I don't like about this tool at all is these handles. I am not a huge fan of what they're doing here. I don't know, I mean, I know why they're doing it, but I'm not a fan of the fact that they are trying to emulate perfectly the Free series. Now, these are basically impossible to find anyway, so it's not even really an issue as much as it used to be, but it just feels like this is not as good as the cutout version, which also had a weight advantage, where it was a little bit lighter by having cutouts along the frame. I just don't like it as much. That's just my personal opinion. Now, the tool set on this, if you've never seen it before, we have a T-shank holder, which has a diamond file, really aggressive cross cut on this one, and a set of teeth here, although I wouldn't bank on those cutting through soft steel or anything like that. They're not particularly aggressive. We have a straight blade. This one came very stiff out of the box. I need to adjust it for sure if I was going to use this a lot. The scissors, really nice and beefy and robust, but one thing I did notice right at the tip, they don't quite come together. So there's a couple ways to fix this. My preference would be actually taking it to a grinder and shortening the blades till they come to that point where they are actually touching, which will make it a little bit stronger and also just cut better in general at the tip. But these scissors, they do surprisingly well. They really do. They're quite impressive. And the last tool, of course, is the serrated blade, but I'm having a weird lockup issue on it. So there's something to be said for it. This is the first one from Bibury that I've actually had problems with, and that's not good. So what I would do is I would probably send this back. Since it's a reference, it's not as big an issue for me, but if I had issues like I'm having here with, oh sorry, the wrong blade, with the serrated blade, where it stops there and gets locked up, I would exchange it. I would say that it's defective and I would get a new one, and thankfully Bibury's pretty good about exchanging their tools. They're pretty responsive as well. What makes this tool so interesting, to me at least, is what it has as add-ons. This is a little bit different from what we've had in the past. Now, normally it comes with a couple of different saws, but this time around they come with one saw, but the saw is quite a bit longer than the frame, which makes a ton of sense. If you're gonna have a saw, you wanna have as much length as possible, and if you can fit a bigger one, you should have it. Now, this one is nice and thick and robust with big teeth. So it's not a conventional off-the-shelf T-shank, it's like something a little bit different. Like genuinely, this is much longer than we expect. If we pull out the one from, it's actually, wow, it's substantially longer than the one on the Wave clone. And the funny thing is, the blade, the saw blade on the Surge, the standard Surge, it's actually shorter than the Wave. So this is a significantly longer saw than the ones you will get even from a Leatherman Surge. This also comes with, which I find very interesting, a T-shank scalpel holder? That's weird. I don't know why I would need 3 blades, right? Like, I would love to see a variation, since this exists and all of this stuff exists, where the diamond file, well, I don't know, maybe where the saw replaces the serrated blade or something like that. I don't know how I'd want this to work, but it feels like the third blade's a little redundant, but I will tell you, I am very thankful to have the option to have a T-shank scalpel holder. I've never had that. Now you can get this, and there you can buy this kit separately along with all the add-ons for around $20. So you don't have to buy this thing entirely. You can actually just buy the kit, which have spare components. It'll also come with the bit kit as well. So this bit kit is nice because it has security Torx. It has a couple of heads that you can't find commonly, and you certainly can't find in the Leatherman flat bits. And so this is a pretty solid combination. And this will also work with any of the Klein double-sided bits as well. So that's a good combo with this tool. I don't know the exact price of this variation, but what I will tell you is you should never, ever pay more than $50 for these ever in any variation. So if they're over 50, wait or buy a different one. That's just my thoughts. And in fact, I think you can buy a Bibury Surge clone right now with the other handles, which I like better, for around $36, which means if you buy the spare components, which some are just redundant, that's only $56. So you certainly don't want to spend more than $50, and realistically, I'd like to pay around $45 for this particular setup. Either way, I mean, it's fine new release. I would also like to see that the serrated blade has a pull cutter added to the back, but I think they've already started doing that. Overall, pretty nice work. Well, that's going to be it for the day. I think the professional tool from Nextorch is by far the most interesting of the bunch, but I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are down in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.